Oh, got it. So someone's just,
Unmute yourself, please, Dave, dear one. Maybe not. Who are you, dear one?
Somebody just walked into his door.
Cool, thank you. Who is that said that to me with all that bass?
It was Scott.
Right on, Scott. I can't see anything. I got a lot of stuff up here. All right, so
okay.
I'm gonna just put in the chat how to raise your hand, but we all just raise our hands when we need to. Just talking when we need to, but just in case.
Having some. Oh, there's Doug. I just have to swipe across. Terry, Anthea, Donna, Mercy, Heidi. Hey, Nikki. Oh, there's a few on here today.
Mm-hmm.
Judy Oldham. Now that name rings a bell. All right, that's it. So I've got 3. Anyway, so today we're going to be doing the 20-minute book. We're going to do a kind of a preamble, which is something that at the Healing Center I attended, and at pretty much every gathering that I facilitate, we will do the 20-minute book. The 20-minute book, if you don't know, is the reviews. This is the old version of it, and this is the one that we're giving out currently, which Tina's trying to organise to raise some money to print some in America. Because it cost me $3 to send a 50-cent book. Not that I begrudge it, but there must be a better way. So the 20-minute book is the reviews of the first 50 lessons of A Course in Miracles. And it's the entire thought system of the course. It's an entire spiritual curriculum in a nutshell. So the advantage and the reason for doing this prior to any meditation or any, especially in a group setting, any kind of gathering, is that it puts everybody straight onto the same page. All right. It doesn't matter what your week has held for you, no matter how frustrating it's been or how beautiful it's been or how whatever it is, because you're going to give it all complete definition until you come to this. Okay, everything that you think about during the week that's going on in your head, or about what you think might be having to go on after this meeting and all these other things, this brings you to the complete reason that you're in this meeting, in this Zoom meeting in the first place, which primarily is to have an experience, and also to back that up with the mind training and that purification process that will enable you to hold and honor and keep sacred that experience, so that you'll become useful on the earth in the time you have remaining, and not just some mumbling crazy person who's running around saying, I've seen God, and not know what to do with that. Okay, and if ever you've been to an asylum or anything like that, or there's lots of people that have had experiences, but that experience turns in on itself because it only has that ego framework to reference what it is that it thinks goes on, and so it goes kind of bonkers and not very useful in that context. Whereas with a little bit of mind training, can become a hell of a lot more useful and more produce more fruit. So I like to start this as a kind of a round robin. Do you guys all have your book? You're open at the first set of reviews. I'm getting thumbs up. Everybody's got their first set of reviews there. I don't know what the page is in the big book, but I'm going to be reading from this little one. We're going to start with lesson 1. Nothing I see means anything. Okay. Now, I know this says that it's a 20-minute book, but in actual fact, it takes about 45 minutes. And Tina, can you unmute everyone for this? Anthea's just getting her book.
Sure. They can unmute themselves at the time just for the recording, maybe? Or do you want it just to be open the whole time?
I think everyone can just sort of keep silent.
Okay.
Until it's their turn to read. But I don't know how we're going to go clockwise here, because my page is like down. So I'll let you call that who reads next, because you have a big screen. Do you have a big screen? You can see everyone?
I do, yeah. Why can't I
So
read everybody?
maybe just go along. If we have 50 people, that would be great. We can all read one thing each.
Don't have
Oh,
quite
what's
50.
that one you got, Scott? You got your book there.
All right, you guys can
Eric.
unmute yourselves, because I don't think I have an unmute.
Yeah, just
all.
unmute yourselves. And I'm just going to
Okay.
start with the unmuted. Good. So I'm just going to start with the first one. It may be a little bit raggle-taggle, because this is doing a Zoom meeting like this. It's like we haven't done many, and we'll just see how it goes. But if you really feel like you've got to read something, just butt in. Okay. There's no right or wrong in this. If you feel the urge to read a particular lesson, just blurt it out and we'll all stop and listen. All right. Nothing I see means anything. The reason this is so is that I see nothing, and nothing has no meaning. It is necessary that I recognize this, that I may learn to see. What I think I see now is taking the place of vision. I must let it go by realizing it has no meaning, so that vision may take its place. I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. I have judged everything I look upon, and it is this and only this I see. This is not vision. It is merely an illusion of reality, because my judgments have been made quite apart from reality. I am willing to recognize the lack of validity in my judgments because I want to see. My judgments have hurt me, and I do not want to see according to them. Travis?
Sure. 3. I do not understand anything I see. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is a projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There is no sense in trying to understand it, but there is every reason to let it go and make room for what I can see, what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. It's not this a better way, a better choice than the one I made before?
Do the next one.
These thoughts do not mean anything. The thoughts of which I am aware of do not mean anything because I am trying to think without God. What I call my thoughts are not my real thoughts. My real thoughts are the thoughts I think with God. I am not aware of them because I have made my thoughts to take their place. I am willing to recognize that my thoughts do not mean anything and to let them go. I choose to have them be replaced by what they were intended to replace. My thoughts are meaningless, but all creation lies in the thoughts I think with God.
I am never upset for the reason I think. I am. What?
Keep going.
I am never upset for the reason I think because I am constantly trying to justify my thoughts. I am constantly trying to make them true. I make all things my enemies so that my anger is justified and my attacks are warranted. I have not realized how much I have misused everything I see by assigning this role to it. I have done this to defend a thought system that has hurt me and that I no longer want. I am willing to let it go. I am upset because I see what is not there. Reality is never frightening. It is impossible that it could upset me. Reality brings only perfect peace. When I am upset, it is always because I have replaced reality with illusions I made up. The illusions are upsetting because I have given them reality and thus regard reality as an illusion. Nothing in God's creation is affected in any way by this confusion of mine. I am always upset by nothing.
Eric.
That's funny. I was going to read.
Right.
I see only the past. As I look about, I condemn the world I look upon. I call this seeing. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemies. When I have forgiven myself and remember who I am, I will bless everyone and everything I see. There will be no past and therefore no enemies. And I will look with love on all that I failed to see before. 3. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing, I am giving up nothing.
Michelle.
I see nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I see nothing. I can see only what is now. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present. The choice is merely whether to see or not. What I have chosen to see has cost me vision. Now I would choose again that I may see. My thoughts do not mean anything. I have no private thoughts, yet it is only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with my pitiful and meaningless private thoughts?
Heidi.
My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules, a world that represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I am grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning.
Good. Ron.
Meaningless world engenders fear. The totally insane engenders fear because it is completely undependable and offers no grounds for trust. Nothing in madness is dependable. It holds out no safety and no hope. But such a world is not real. I have given the illusion of reality and have suffered from my belief in it. Now I choose to withdraw this belief and place my trust in reality. In choosing this, I will escape all the effects of the world of fear, because I am acknowledging that it does not exist. Next, God did not create a meaningless world. How can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning, and everything that is real is in his mind. It is in my mind too, because he created it with me. Why should I continue to suffer from the effects of my own insane thoughts when the perfect perfection of creation is my home? Let me remember the power of my decision and recognize where I really abide.
Sam.
He's just listening.
My thoughts are images that I have made. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It is my thoughts that tell me where I am and what I am. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death shows me that I am seeing only the representation of my insane thoughts, and am not allowing my real thoughts to cast their beneficent light on what I see. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is his, and I will place no other gods before him. Should I keep going?
Absolutely. Go on.
I have no neutral thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible because all thoughts have power. They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one. But thoughts cannot be without effects. As the world I see arises from my thinking errors, so will the real world rise before my eyes as I let my errors be corrected. My thoughts cannot be neither true nor false. They must be one or the other. What I see shows me which they are.
Anthea.
I see no neutral things. What I see witnesses to what I think. If I did not think, I would not exist, because life is thought. Let me look on the world I see as the representation of my own state of mind. I know that my state of mind can change, and so I also know the world I see can change as well. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. If I have no private thoughts, I cannot see a private world. Even the mad idea of separation had to be shared before it could form the basis of the world I see. Yet that sharing was a sharing of nothing. I can also call upon my real thoughts, which share everything with everyone. As my thoughts of separation call to the separation thoughts of others, so my real thoughts awaken the real thoughts in them. And the world, my real thoughts show me will dawn on their sight as well as mine.
Beautiful.
Good. Tina.
I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thought. I am alone in nothing. Everything I think or say or do teaches all the universe. A son of God cannot think or speak or act in vain. He cannot be alone in anything. It is therefore in my power to change every mind along with mine. For mine is the power of God.
Doug.
I am determined to see, recognizing the shared thought, recognizing the shared nature of my thoughts.
I'm determined to see. I would look upon the witnesses that show me the thinking of the world has been changed. I would behold the proof that what has been done through me has enabled love to replace fear, laughter to replace tears, and abundance to replace loss. I would look upon the real world and let it teach me that my will and the will of God are one.
Mercy.
I am determined to see things differently. What I see now are but signs of disease, disaster, and death. This cannot be what God created for his beloved Son. The very fact that I see such things is proof that I do not understand God. Therefore, I also do not understand his Son. What I see tells me that I do not know who I am. I am determined to see the witness to the truth in me rather than those which show me an illusion of myself.
Right. Do the next one.
What I see is a form of vengeance. The world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. It is a picture of attack on everything by everything. It is anything but a reflection of the love of God and the love of his Son. It is my own attack thoughts that give rise to this picture. My loving thoughts will save me from this perception of the world and give me the peace God intended me to have.
Right. Terry.
I can escape from this world by giving up attack thoughts. Here lies salvation and nowhere else. Without attack thoughts, I could not see a world of attack. As forgiveness allows love to return to my awareness, I will see a world of peace and safety and joy. And it is this I choose to see in place of what I look on now. I do not perceive my own best interests. How can I recognize my own best interests when I don't know who I am? What I think are my best interests would merely bind me closer to the world of illusions. I am willing to follow the guide God has given me to find out what my own best interests are, recognizing that I cannot perceive them by myself.
Ida.
I do not know what anything is for. To me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. It is for this purpose that I attempt to use everyone and everything. It is for this that I believe the world is for. Therefore, I do not recognize its real purpose. The purpose I have given the world has led to a frightening picture of it. Let me open my mind to the world's real purpose by withdrawing the one I have given it and learning the truth about it. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. How can I know who I am when I see myself as under constant attack? Pain, illness, loss, age, and death seem to threaten me. All my hopes and wishes and plans appear to be at the mercy of a world I cannot control. Yet perfect security and complete fulfillment are my inheritance. I have tried to give my inheritance away in exchange for the world I see. But God has kept my inheritance safe for me. My own real thoughts will teach me what it is.
Good. Kevin.
Above all else, I want to see, recognizing that what I see reflects what I think I am. I realize that vision is my greatest need. The world I see attests to the fearful nature of the self-image I have made. If I would remember who I am, it is essential that I let this image of myself go. As it is replaced by truth, vision will surely be given me. And with this vision, I will look upon the world and on myself with charity and love. Above all else, I want to see differently. The world I see holds my fearful self-image in place and guarantees its continuance. While I see the world as I see it now, truth cannot enter my awareness. I would let the door behind this world be open for me, that I may look past it to the world that reflects the love of God.
Donna.
God is in everything I see. Behind every image I have made, the truth remains unchanged. Behind every veil I have drawn across the face of love, its light remains undimmed. Beyond all my insane wishes is my will, united with the will of my Father. God is still everywhere and in everything forever. And we who are part of him will yet look past all appearances and recognize the truth beyond them all. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. In my own mind, behind all my insane thoughts of separation and attack, is the knowledge forever. I have not lost the knowledge of who I am because I have forgotten it. It is kept for me in the mind of God, who has not left his thoughts, and I, who am among them, am one with them and one with him.
Angela.
You're on mute, Angela.
I think that's you, Angela and Wesley. Yeah.
I am not the victim of the world I see. How can I be the victim of a world which can be completely undone if I so choose? My chains are loosened. I can drop them off merely by desiring to do so. The prison door is open. I can leave it simply by walking out. Nothing holds me in this world. Only my wish to stay keeps me a prisoner. I would give up my insane wishes and walk into the sunlight at last. I have invented the world I see. I made up the prison in which I see myself. All I need do is recognize this, and I'm free. I have deluded myself into believing it's possible to imprison the Son of God, and I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want. The Son of God must be forever free. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and not where I thought to hold him prisoner.
Lisa.
There is another way of looking at the world. Since the purpose of the world is not the one I expect to it, there must be another way of looking at it. I see everything upside down.
Lisa, your sound is really not good.
Oh, it's not? How's that?
Oh, that's better. Yep.
Okay. There is another way of looking at the world. Since the purpose of the world is not the one I ascribe to it, there must be another way of looking. I see everything upside down, and my thoughts are the opposite of truth. I see the world as a prison for God's Son. It must be then that the world is really a place where he can be and be set free. I would look upon the world as it is and see it as a place where the Son of God finds his freedom. There is another way of looking at the world. I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize that it reflects the laws of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it. And I will perceive that peace also abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me. I could see peace instead of this.
Nikki.
My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. As I share peace of the world with my brothers, I begin to understand that this peace comes from deep within myself. The world I look upon has taken on the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back at me. In this light, I begin to see what my illusions about myself kept hidden. I begin to understand the holiness of all living things, including myself, and their oneness with me. My holiness envelopes everything I see. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Having forgiven, I no longer see myself as guilty. I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me. Seen through understanding eyes, the holiness of the world is all I see, for I can picture only the thoughts I hold about myself.
Terry.
My holiness blesses the world. The perception of my holiness does not bless me alone. Everyone and everything I see in its light shares in the joy it brings to me. There is nothing that is apart from this joy, because there is nothing that does not share my holiness. As I recognize my holiness, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is unlimited in its power to heal, but because it is unlimited in its power to save. What is there to be saved from except illusions? And what are all illusions except false ideas about myself? My holiness undoes all by asserting the truth about me. In the presence of my holiness, in which I share with God himself, all idols vanish.
Anna.
My holiness is my salvation. Since my holiness saves me from all guilt, recognizing my holiness is recognizing my salvation. It is also recognizing the salvation of the world. Once I have accepted my holiness, nothing can make me afraid. And because I am unafraid, everyone must share in my understanding, which is the gift of God to me and to all the world. I am blessed as the son.
Yes.
I am blessed as a son of God. Herein lies my claim to all good and only good. I am blessed as a son of God. All good things are mine because God intended them for me. I cannot suffer any loss or deprivation or pain because of who I am. My Father supports me, protects me, and directs me in all things. His care for me is infinite and is with me forever. I am eternally blessed as his son.
Yes. Dean.
God goes with me wherever I go. How can I be alone when Christ goes with me? How can I be doubtful and unsure of myself when perfect certainty abides in him? How can I be disturbed by anything when he lives in absolute peace? How can I suffer when love and joy surround me through him? Let me not cherish illusions about myself. I am perfect because God goes with me wherever I go. God is my strength and vision is his gift. Let me not look to my own eyes to see today. Let me be willing to exchange my pitiful illusions of seeing for the vision that is given by God. Christ's vision is his gift, and he has given it to me. Let me call upon this gift today, so that this day may help me to understand eternity.
Wendy.
God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. I can see what God wants me to see. I cannot see anything else. Beyond his will lie only illusions. It is these I choose when I think I can see apart from him. It is these I choose when I try to see through the body's eyes. Yet the vision of Christ has been given me to replace them. It is through this vision that I choose to see. God is the light in which I see. I cannot see in darkness. God is the only light. Therefore, if I am to see, I must see through him. I have tried to define what seeing is, and I have been wrong. Now it is given me to understand that God is the light in which I see. Let me welcome vision and the happy world it will show me.
Yes. Angelica.
Okay, we'll try. I don't know. Angelica's Spanish, so I don't know if she can read it. I'll read it for her. It's Wesley.
She can read it in Spanish.
We only got the app one up here on English, though.
Yeah, you can read.
So are we on 46?
Can you translate it in Spanish?
Yeah, if you give me a second. Un momento.
Can she read? Un momento. Can she read the? Can she read English?
Can you read English well enough, or do you want me to? I can put in Spanish. Just it'll take about 10 seconds.
Let her read it in Spanish.
Okay.
If she can.
Okay. This is 46,
not,
yeah?
45.
45. Okay.
This is not about the words. This is about the message, the signal, the energy, the frequency and the signature that the words represent. So it doesn't matter what the language is. You can hear this because this comes from truth.
Ok, ready. Dios es la mente con la que pienso. No tengo pensamientos que no comparta con Dios. No tengo pensamientos aparte de Él, porque no tengo mente aparte de la suya. Como parte de su mente, mis pensamientos son suyos y sus pensamientos son míos.
Okay. No, I'll translate the next one. Just give me 1 second.
Okay. What's going on? No. Dios es el amor en el que perdono. Dios no perdona porque nunca ha condenado. El inocente no puede culpar y aquellos que han aceptado su inocencia no ven nada que perdonar. Sin embargo, el perdón es el medio por el cual reconoceré mi inocencia. Es el reflejo del amor de Dios en la tierra. Me acercará lo suficiente al cielo para que el amor de Dios pueda alcanzarme y elevarme a mi hogar.
Gracias, mi amor.
Thanks.
All right. Sam?
Sam can't speak. He's got somebody there.
Oh, you can't speak? That's okay. Who else have we got hasn't had a speak? Judy, we've got a Judy here.
I'll go. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me, which I am remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me. And I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me. There is nothing to fear. How safe the world will look at me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean towards me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world which I have forgiven and which has forgiven me?
Who's with Lisa? Scott.
God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There's not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness to save me. There's not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I'm walking steadily on toward truth. There is nowhere else I can go because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. I am sustained by the love of God. As I listen to God's voice, I am sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up the world for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with the vision he has given me, I remember that I am his son. Amen.
Good. Amen. So we're all on the same page. I'm just going to plug these things out. Can you guys still hear me if I take that out? Yep. Good. I like to do this without those things in my ears, I think. But, okay, so that was a pretty flat 20-minute book reading, to be honest. Right? There was a few moments there, but and this is the thing that I'm looking at with this, because the whole thing that we're doing right now is an experiment. All right. So welcome to a great experiment. We're all a part of it. And the reading of this little book, it's revelatory. All right. One of the things that I know about this, if I read this, and I think I've mentioned this before, but if I read this book like I'm reading a magazine, waiting for a bus or waiting for an airplane at the airport, just filling in time, it's like my mind on the conscious level is very superficial, and it will do anything to keep me in that band, in that superficial sensory sort of level of mind. But the energetic signature that these words contain don't come from this world. Right? Now, one of the things that many of you will have encountered with your own internal guidance is what I call static. When you meditate, and especially when you're new to meditation, and when you like, if you ask a question with sincerity and with specificity of the spirit, you always get a clear answer. But one of the things that happens when you're learning to listen, usually that answer is a bit like trying to tune in an old radio, and you hear this static, and you all of a sudden you'll hear this like, what was that? Did I hear something? You know, and automatically the ego corrupts it. Right, because the purpose of the ego, which I've given it, is to corrupt everything. Anything that represents anything that's going to lead me towards the truth, its purpose is to corrupt it. So even in the reading of this little book, the ego's purpose is always to corrupt it, to co-opt it, And you'll notice that some of you guys reading this put in words that weren't there, read things as with a few mistakes, and sort of didn't even notice and carried on, even though what you just read made no real sense in relation to the rest of it and all of that. And that's part of it. That's fine. That happens all the time in the beginning. So one of the things that I love about the course is Jesus says there are certain rules or guidelines for setting up your day properly, right? Before your feet even get out of bed and hit the floor, offer your day to God. Okay, that's a conscious offering. It's not a ritual. It's not something you repeat day after day after day, like because you have to, because I said so, because Jesus said so. It's because you want to. Somewhere inside you feel the need for that, because there's an awareness that everything you do is diluted with falsity. Every word that proceeds from the mouth of man is a lie. Okay, so even in the reading of this, there's this kind of ho-hum, dispassionate, just sort of like I'm God's son. That's neither good nor bad. It's just how it is. Okay, so you have to be aware, and this is where you learn to activate yourself. You have to be aware that because the mind exists or seems to exist within the framework of separation, we're going to meet it where it seems to be. All right. I know I'm not a body, but I'm going to meet every day as this body. Right. Jesus says, I die daily. Every day I get up, it's like, oh, fuck, I'm still here. I still think I'm a body. I still have a lesson to learn. There's still something. All right. That's a good thing. Okay. It's like I would rather wake up feeling miserable and know that there was a lesson to learn and to be alert for that lesson, rather than to wake up feeling full of beans and roses and flowers in this kind of thing and just skip through the day like there's nothing. Because if I'm here, I want to make the most use of my day that I can. All right. If I'm here, I want to be vigilant. If I'm here, I want to be spot on for whatever's going on for me, so that I can not miss it and I can do this one boop, on my own nose and learn the lesson that the day is going to present to me. And some days those lessons just seem like little things, and some days they're like whole countries going to war, and they're all sorts of things that goes on, and they're all the same thing, but they represent, in my mind, a part of a belief system that is lingering in the darkness, attempting to maintain some kind of authority where it actually has none. Okay, so in reading this book, and this is the same with your big book and everything, in reading this book, I'm going to offer you this, and you can do with it as you like. You can call me an idiot, or you can say that's incredible, or what. It doesn't really matter. Where this lands within you, it will land within you. This book is God speaking to you directly. Try to get a sense of that. Try to get a sense of how sacred the text and the words and the pages that you hold in your hand actually are. Try to feel that, right? Because you have to activate yourself. No one else is going to come along to save you. No one else is going to come along to do this for you. You're doing this, okay? I'm doing this. In my dream of my idea of separation from source, I'm the one that has to look at these words. It's like, I see no neutral things. Lesson 17, holy cow, I see no neutral things. There's my whole way out. Like, that's literally a bombshell in my mind. All right? It's either a bombshell in my mind or it's nothing at all. It's just like, oh, I see no neutral things. And it doesn't really register that I see no neutral things. Okay? Because my whole way of seeing everything is kind of like in neutral. Okay? It's like I take everything for granted. I see, hear, smell, touch, and taste, and I use the past as a reference to tell me, oh, this is a rose, it smells like this. Oh, this is a biscuit, it tastes like that. And in doing that, I dumb down or I nullify all the meaning that it once had for me when I very first tasted it. When I very first smelt that rose and went, oh my God, that's beautiful. Or when I first tasted that biscuit and thought, that's incredible. And the joy and the happiness and the excitement and the wonder and the awe of that experience has become lost in the mundanity of the repetition of the residue or the recall of my past thinking about it to try and tell me what it is I'm referencing now. Okay, because the ego is always looking for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. The beauty of the scent of a rose or the sunset or anything. I mean, nothing I see means anything, but we're just using this as a point of mind training. Okay, if it's lost amidst the ho-hum of my life, and by the time you get to 35, you've already had a lot of ho-hum. You've been watching the news and you've sort of probably had a few failed relationships, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you're really good at avoiding. Okay, it's what we do. It's what the human mind does. It pigeonholes stuff into, oh yeah, I don't need to know about that. I already know what that is. All right, I'm looking for the next thing. I'm looking for something that's going to release me. Well, what's going to release you is the realization that the way that I'm using my mind, the way that I'm using my thinking to embrace what's being presented to me here and now is completely redundant to me, given the new purpose that I've told myself that I want for my life. Does that make sense? Right? It's easy to read this book day after day after day, and you think you're reading a book, and somewhere in your mind, you don't even really know why you're reading it. It's just a book that you feel you should read because it seems to make sense somewhere, and it's sort of, you know, the next thing you know, you've read a whole page and you don't even know what it was you read. It's like reading a magazine at the airport. You get to the end of the article and you get off the plane at the other end and someone says to you, what did you read about the magazine? You said, oh, well, I read something about quantum physics, or I don't know, I can't explain it. Because you never really connect with anything in life, right? The human mind never really connects, never truly communicates. Okay, there's always just this little kind of off the present, you know, into the future, back from the past kind of thing. And even when you're reading stuff, it's always, oh yeah, I read this yesterday, right? That's going to be the premise by which you attempt to read it today. So you have to read this book as if it was brand new, as if this was the first time you ever read it, right? Now that takes a moment of finding that purpose within yourself again, every single time. Where's Dean? Is he on here still? Dean and Michelle, there's Dean. So Dean's becoming a master at this, okay? Dean has more suffering than anyone, all of us put together on this page, okay? More, and Dean, I hope you don't mind me using you as the example here. It can only increase your level of suffering, I guess, make this more beneficial to you in doing so. But it's what it is that you've been through that is going to push you to finding the truth of what this is saying for you, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that you have a horrific life and that you have this intense period of pain before you finally realize that something else in your life has to have more value than the value you give to the story. Okay, the story of who you think you are. But until that point, until there's a point where you realize just how beneficial this is, master teacher or dear one, or what's his name, Charles Anderson, who was my teacher's teacher, used to say this thing: if you truly knew how beneficent this was, you would fall at the feet of the person who offered it to you. You know, and it's like, it's that, literally, it's that, I can't explain it. But when you read it and you hear yourself reading this, I'm determined to see things differently. What I see now are signs of disease. It's like, be aware of your own passion, be aware of your own excitement, be aware of your own gratitude. How grateful am I to have this little book and to have an opportunity to read it, playing my part in salvation. You know, and I don't want this to sound like it's a wet blanket on everything that we're doing. But it's like there's always this rising up. There's always this reinvigoration of the spirit within ourselves. And when you come to this, book or to this group or to this meditation, to anything, you're coming from your world. you're coming into it, to this sacred place that we've created here or made here. You're coming into that intentionally, leaving behind for a moment all the pressures and the stories and the trials and tribulations of the world that reflects back to you the reasons that you would want to do this in the first place. Okay? Does that make sense? So it's like learning to give this total value. It's like, let me read this like this is me. If I read this with total passion, I'm going to win the lotto. Right? You can relate to that. If somebody said, I'm going to give you $100 million to read this with total passion, from your total heart space, from that place where every single person is going to be blown over backwards by the words that come from your mouth, you're going to get that $100 million. But because fundamentally the ego knows what this is talking about, it's going to try to dumb it down. It's going to try to make it just something that you do as a daily lesson or as a whatever. And part of the mind training is learning to be vigilant for the kingdom of heaven within you, right? The price of peace is eternal vigilance, but also to be aware when it is that you're not in that complete heart space, that heart and mind together, because the mind is the place of decision and the heart is the place of passion, and they have to come together. So in the reading of this, I am determined to see things differently. You're reading this to yourself. Okay? You're not reading this to a bunch of other people in a Zoom room. You're reading this to yourself like your life depends upon it, because your life does depend upon it. And reading it in that context, reading it with that understanding of how important it is that you actually hear, because you have to teach this to hear it, okay, will give you a whole different result than sitting here reading something that you think is part of a group, because there is no group. There's no Zoom room. There's no nothing. That's just my mind looking at ideas, these fresh new ideas that I'm taking on board to learn how to integrate into my thought system, to reinterpret my attack and defense mechanisms to actually serve my greater good. Okay, so you have to activate yourself. And that goes, it's not just in reading this little book or anything like that. It's at the supermarket. It's everywhere you go. It's like, am I truly present? Am I truly meeting this person? Am I truly having this encounter? Or is this encounter, this person, this situation, or this event just some kind of ho-hum intermediary thing that's going on in the middle of my day till I can get into bed again at the end at night and sleep it all off? You know, because that's the only two ways you can see the world, right? Einstein used to say you either see everything as if it's a miracle or you see everything as if nothing is a miracle. Okay, and that goes along with the glory of who you are, being able to participate in this thing that we call life, even though it seems to be an illusion, even though we're told it's an illusion. All right, I don't care whether it's an illusion or whether it's my reality or whether it's what it is, but I want to be in it fully. I want to totally embrace it. I want to live every moment and breathe every moment, because this is the only moment I have. I don't have another moment where I can rewind it and come back and put more passion into it, or come back and be more embracing of it. It's like I need God to go with me everywhere I go. I need that to be my call, my setup, my invitation in every moment, in this moment. So that when I read the words on this page, it's the first time I've ever read them. And it's like, the fact that I see such things is proof that I understand that I do not understand God. It's like, holy cow, that makes so much sense. You could just stop right there. You know, the fact that I see such things is proof that I do not understand God. How could I even get past that and read the next line? I don't understand God. It's like, there's my solution. There's my whole way out. I don't understand God. That's why I'm seeing such things. Right? I need an experience. I need to understand God, which is myself, my higher self. And so if I were to read that the very fact I see such things is proof I do not understand God. Therefore, I also do not understand his son. It's like you can tell sometimes, right? And you'll each have this within you, right? There's this kind of recovery, right? The ego hates to lose face. The ego absolutely hates to lose face, right? And it has this kind of recovery where all of a sudden I'll read that. The fact that I see such things is proof that I do not understand God. All of a sudden, all this emotionality of how I don't understand God is going to want to come up in me, okay? And I'm going to want to cry, or I'm going to want to laugh, or I'm going to want to do something. And the ego is going to want to recover, and it's going to tell me to read the next line. Just keep reading. Don't have that moment. But literally every line in this book is that moment waiting to happen in you. Okay, it doesn't matter. The world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. The world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. Turn on the news. If you don't believe that's true, turn on the news. Have a look at it. Is it the representation of loving thoughts? The very fact that I see such things, it's like this book is a revelation. It's like this teaching is, what do you do with it? Literally, what do you do with it? You have to let it work in you. You have to let it work in you. And that's where becoming defenseless, becoming completely vulnerable, beautifully vulnerable and open, and allowing yourself to finally have those release moments, feel that emotionality as it comes up. All right. Let that happen. Just let it happen. Your enlightenment is this seed within your heart waiting to burst open and put forth a branch with one little leaf on it. Right? Like a little avocado tree. It's got one leaf and it's waiting to burst out of you. It can't do that if you don't let it. You have to let it. Within you is the word already manifest, already active. Your job is simply to be willing to let that happen in you, no matter what it looks like. In this instance, it looks like reading this book. All right. My brother Dean, where is he? Let me find him on the page here. My brother Dean can't hardly read a goddamn page out of this book without that he has a complete meltdown and allows his heart to open so widely that 1,000 souls are released every word he speaks. That's the truth of it. His passion and his determination are so resolute because he's seen he doesn't have an alternative. He's seen he has no alternative but God, and he's embraced it. What is my life without God in it? What is my life without my knowledge of self? What is my life without knowing that in every given circumstance, I'm there to represent the glory of the divinity that is burning within me and waiting to shoot forth as like a little avocado tree with a leaf. That's the most sacred thing in the universe. Have you watched that movie 28 Days? Tina, you did, right. So the pot plant, you know what happens if that pot plant dies?
I know. I moved a little avocado to some more light. I'm working it out. Right.
More light, more love. That's all it needs. So anyway, in the reading of this book, before you attempt to say your section, say your bit, take a breath, close your eyes, take a breath. Ask within yourself, Holy Spirit, help me to even read the words on this page that is before me in a way that is going to serve me. Because the last thing you want to do is get to the end of the page and not be able to tell me what you just read. The last thing you want to do is to get to the end of this book and have it make no difference in your life. And that happens. That happens. It's like some of us are late time, early. What is it? Like everyone's wherever you're at in your own maturation and in your own process of rising up and acceptance of your own divinity. But some of us are very late timers, early in time, and some of us are early timers, late in time. And I don't know if that makes sense, but you'll know where you're at by how much relevance this has to you in your life and how much value you give it. So if you're aware that, and now that you're aware of what I'm telling you, you'll go back and read this again, okay? And you'll see how much difference there is in what you put into it, because what you put into it is exactly what you get out fold. All right? It's got to be passionate. It's got to be standing on the mount, listening to the words of Jesus 2,000 years ago. You've walked across the holy hills of Galilee, of that basin around the Dead Sea there, and you're standing listening to Jesus directly. You've walked 1,000 miles to hear what he has to say, and you want to hear it. Okay? And that voice in your head that tries to interpret everything as if you do know what he's saying already, you don't want to listen to that voice. You want to let this be the first time you've ever heard it. You want to let this book be brand new every moment. These words, these pages of information, living information. I can escape this world by giving up attack thoughts. Woo-hoo! There it is. There it is. That's it. I can escape this world by giving up attack thoughts. You don't have to guess. It says that right in this book. You don't have to guess how to escape this world. But when I read it, am I hearing myself read it? Right now, that's one of the things with the teaching. So part of this course, part of the psychotherapy of this course is that as you teach it to others, you hear it yourself. Because in a sense, there are no others. I'm teaching myself, and everyone that shows up before me is an opportunity for me to declare the certainty of my mind, to hear myself what it is I need to listen to, what it is I need to integrate, what it is I need to take on board, so that the change can occur in me, the shift can occur in me, and therefore extend automatically to my world by the nature of the change in my own thinking about the world. Does that make sense? Okay. It's impossible that you meet anyone by accident. It's impossible that you're in this meeting by accident. It's impossible that you're hearing what I'm telling you now by accident. The only thing that is possible is that you're not actually hearing me, right? Jesus says you have ears but do not hear, and eyes and do not see. Okay. And the only reason that you wouldn't hear me is because you already have preconceived thoughts about what you think I'm saying, rather than actually listening to what I'm saying. All right. And that goes hand in hand with every conversation you have with every person on the planet and every situation that seems to present itself to you. And that's because the ego loves the idea that it's competent. The ego loves the idea that it can meet any situation, person, or event on equal terms and be able to hold its face. Okay. And that's the thought. That's all it has. That's all it's got going for it. Okay. It actually doesn't exist. It's just this idea, this false belief in your mind that it can attract you in one way or another because you think there's something in the world that's valuable. Or I think there's something in the world that's valuable, which maintains my integrity to the premise of something that has no reality whatsoever, rather than accepting truth, which is what reality is. Is that cool? Scott.
Thanks, Dave. And if I might, or if I may, I'd like to add a testimonial. Okay.
Go for it. Thank you.
My teachers spent 17 years with Master Teacher, and they trained me how to read this booklet, and it's exactly the way you just described it. And that's how I read it. Every time, with passion, desire, and intent, as if I were reading it for the first time, every time. And I've had countless spiritual experiences as a result of doing this activity. This booklet talks about vision in the real world. I counted it up over 120 times. I've experienced those things by doing this booklet.
Yes.
And the only thing that I'll add to it, Dave, that I didn't hear you say was that I was instructed also to do this, to read it to my brothers and sisters in a group setting as if it were a gift to them. And so when I bring that attitude to it, of course it's fresh and new because it's for everybody. And so I always bring that attitude into it, whether I'm by myself or with a group, and it stays crystal clear in my mind what the purpose is. So thanks again.
Terrific. Yes. the thing I'll put on that is that in the experience of self, there are no others. Okay, so I understand what you're saying about reading to your brothers and sisters and all of that. So I always like to come at it like I'm the dunce. I'm the dunce of the group, and I'm the one that needs to hear this. And my brothers and sisters out there, they're waiting for me to hear it. So I read it as if I'm trying to hurry up and get this so they can disappear along with me. It's that important. You know, it's the same thing, but I'm keeping my finger here. So there's nothing more important than my own salvation. The only thing that I can offer to anyone, anywhere, anytime is my own awakening. I can't go out there and fix the world. I can't go and solve that problem. I mean, I could try. I can bust my ass trying to fix this conflict or that, you know, whatever. And then another one's going to pop up. But the only thing I can do successfully is to accept atonement for myself, purely and simply because it's already occurred. Right? I'm asking for something that's already been given to me. The only consideration in that asking is, how badly do I want it? Do I want it more than the world I think I see? Do I want it more than all my thoughts of suffering and pain and misery? And this is where the rubber hits the road. If I'm telling myself I want my experience of truth, if I'm telling myself I want that experience of divinity and unity within me that God's already given, that Jesus has already atoned for, right, and I don't have it, it's because I don't want it. Okay? That's the bottom line. It's because I would rather have the conflict, the pain, and the suffering. And there is my insanity. And that is what it is that I need to heal within myself, to forgive myself for, through the acceptance of the miracle for myself. Okay? There's a conflict, right? This is a journey into fear. There's not a conflict, but there's a confrontation I have to make with my own insanity here. If I cannot see that I'm insane, right? What is the hope? I'm just going to be applying these lessons to something that's trying to convince itself that it's already okay, that it's fine, right? You got to find that insanity. You got to find that point of, oh my God, I'm buying into the illusion again. Oh my God, I've just made the world real to me again. And that happens again and again and again and again. But you learn this better by forgetting. So through repetition and through doing all these lessons, daily lessons, I'm reminding myself again and again and again what it is I'm about, until finally I reach these ring past knots, or these moments where I have this holy instant, or this light bulb of like, I'm doing this to myself. And you see that you're doing it to yourself. It's like, it's one thing to hear it. It's one thing to read about it in this book. But like when you hear it and you read about it, and all of a sudden the penny drops and you actually have it as your own awareness that you're doing this to yourself, then there's the moment where it can change, or where it does change. Okay? A crazy person's only crazy whilst they don't realize their insanity. A person who's realized their insanity ceases to be insane. Okay? The moment you recognize your insanity, you're healed of it. It's impossible to recognize insanity if you're sane. So we'll get on. We'll do a light session in a moment. And this will be exciting. This will be our second one, I think, or third one. I'm not sure. Did you guys do one the other week when I wasn't here? No? Yeah? No? So the first one, and I'm going to use a past reference for a second, but the first one, it was like wholly experimental. Like I think I'd only ever done 1 or 2 Zoom sessions before. And so this one I want to do slightly differently, just given the medium, right? There's no separation in mind. So I want to kind of open this up. I don't know how to talk. I don't know how to talk about it. I'll do it when we do the session. But any questions so far? Anyone got anything? Okay, so, oh, Angelica and Wesley, there you are. You're Spanish. Hola. And all right, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was something that Tina, just before we came on today, Tina jigged in my mind. What was it? Hang on, where is she?
Here I am.
She said, I don't. Oh, there you are. You said to me something like, I don't want to be that person that's...
I've been trying not to be this person for my whole life. Yeah, spent my whole life not trying to be like this.
All right. So apart from the fact that you're not that person anyway, or the person that you think you are, the mind that operates in duality, right? So this is a really good example, and I'm going to use you as the example again because it's like it's helpful. This is really helpful stuff, and this is common psychology and stuff. Really, I mean, psychology itself as a human endeavor, I would say, is capped. It's limited. It doesn't have the miracle about it or anything like that. So, but one of the constructs of psychology is that you become the thing you deny, or you become the thing that you try to avoid. You know, it's like if you have terrible parents who are one particular thing, and you become determined not to be like them, you end up being like them on the other end of the scale of like trying to be the opposite of that. Because everything comes full circle, right? So you attempt to walk away from or depart from whatever it is your idea of that is, and because thoughts don't leave the mind that thinks them, you end up coming back to it and seeing that you've been actually that all along by deferral. All right. It's kind of like you make, because you're in this world, let's look at the idea of yin and yang, and we'll say to ourselves things like, oh, I want to be a good person, or I want to be the best person I can be, which is completely nonsense because you're not a person to begin with. But you make all these efforts to improve yourself, right? To be better and more inclusive. And I can't think of any of the cool things that people say these days, to be non-whatever. But all of these things are at the expense of something else, okay? But as above, so below, you're one with everything in eternity with God as on earth. But because the mind projects out what it doesn't like, right, and it keeps and flusters up all the things it does like. Look at me, I'm giving to charity, I'm doing all these good deeds, I'm, like that, right? I'm not the person that doesn't give to charity, and I'm not. It's like you're the whole thing by definition, right? You can't be the yin without also being the yang, right? It's just the yang exists in denial. All right, so we craft and we carve out part of our identity out of just the bits we like, and the other part of our identity, as soon as the bits we like are threatened, it rears its ugly head like a rattlesnake, and the next thing you know, your whole persona has gone down the tube. You're exposed as a fraud and boom shanker, and we've all had those moments where someone said something and it's just triggered us, and our nice facade has just gone nothing. So including in everything that I say to myself things like, oh, I don't ever want to be like that. What was the Karen? Okay, like the committee person, the person that tries to organize everyone else. So everything's perfect. Right? Everything's perfect. For me to transcend, let's say, or to heal that idea of the Karen or the committee person, I've got to include that in. I am all the Karens there are, right? If there's a judgmental or an arsehole or a jealous person or I can't even think of things, but you know all these things, and we point our finger out there and go, oh, look at that person, they're so whatever. So that's me. I'm seeing me. I'm seeing an opportunity to heal something about a fractured thought system in my own mind that keeps me in this cause and effect relationship where I think that I'm actually separate from other people, instead of actually allowing myself to reclaim or re-own the meaning that I've given those things in the first place that manifests that illusion of separation. Okay, so I'm all the Karens there are. Now, when I first take that on board, right, I'm just going to use this Karen one because it seems to be current, but or I'm all the jealous people that there are, or I'm all the bigots that there are, or I'm all the whatever it is. If I see it, it's me, right? Finger on the nose. So when I take that on board, when I'm willing to accept that I'm a Karen, right, with all the definitions that I've given to that identity, right, at first it may not register. It might be there superficially. Oh, yeah, well, if I'm one with everything, I must be a Karen as well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you may not feel emotionally the tag or the rejection of that Karen initially in you. All right. And so there's a moment where you'll sit with the Spirit, you'll sit with the Holy Spirit, and you might ask, all right, I see that this keeps showing up for me. I have this recurring pattern, this recurring illusion that's showing up where I'm constantly triggered or my blocks are constantly activated by this Karen identity. Okay. And like there are 4 main blocks in the course. So the denial of peace is the first one, the belief the body is valuable, the fear of death, and then the fear of love. Right. So it's going to reflect off one of those blocks. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay. On the superficial level, on the exterior level that we're initially learning to atone for in our own thinking, it's going to show up there. So Karen's going to represent, let's say, the first one. Just pick anyone. It doesn't, they're all the same, really. Right. But just pick the first one. My desire to get rid of peace. Right. It's because I want to judge. Fundamentally, I came here to judge. I came here to destroy. I came here to upset everything. I came here to be the best in separation I could be. I've reached a point in my thing where I realize that's not working out so great anymore, and I've asked for a better way. Right. But the better way now is through healing, through forgiveness. I have to forgive myself that old script. And the way I'm going to know if my old script is still active is because it's going to keep showing up as Karen or whatever it is. Right. And you'll recognize it. It wouldn't be helpful to you if you couldn't recognize it. Okay. So it's like, all right, let me sit with Karen. Let me be the Karen. Right. And if you're honest, right, this is where you have to be honest. I can't force you to be honest. If you're honest and you sit with yourself for a moment, you'll find, and sometimes it's not necessary to find these, right? If the reference is particularly painful, but it helps with smaller things to help you move on to the bigger ones. Okay. If I'm honest, I'll find situations and events where I have been the Karen, where I have been the jealous person, where I have been the thing, because I wouldn't know what that was unless I gave it meaning, unless it was a thought in my mind that I'd given a value to, in denial of the fact that there's no such thing as a Karen. There's only love, right? It's down there deep in the dark of my basement, of my subconscious, taking up space where there could be peace instead. And I would rather see peace instead of this. Okay. So I'm letting go of all my definitions of everything by taking responsibility for it. It's like, oh, hang on, there by the grace of God goes I. That Karen, by the grace of God, goes I. There's no Karen out there. There's just me projecting my denial of the wholeness of love that I'm trying to avoid for myself onto some other person's situation or event, looking at it, getting the result of looking at it, which is the meaning I've given it, and judging myself in relationship, in this cause and effect relationship thereby, and maintaining my illusion of separation. Okay. There's no one out there. There is no Karen. There's a bunch of dream figures. It's like, you know, those PlayStation or Xbox and the kids have, and they put those things on and they're actually in the game. That's what this is. It's like that. Jesus is just saying to you, here, just take that off for a second. Just take that off for a second and you'll see the truth. Take that off for a second and you'll see the truth. And our whole lives, like you said, your whole life, you've been trying not to be that person. That's going to be a powerful moment for you. There you go, right? You're right there now. Now you can love that person. You can include that in, be grateful to the Karen for playing their part in your dream of separation, and offer them the liberation from having to play that part by accepting the truth about them rather than the illusion that you've projected out there. That's my brother in Christ. There by the grace of God goes I. I think there's another little leaf growing on your avocado tree back there now. Look at that. Right. Can you hear that? And it's humbling, you know, it's really humbling. It's like you look into that mirror and for a second there's like this embarrassment and there's this humiliation and there's all of that. That's fantastic. The more embarrassed and the more humiliated I become, the happier I feel. You know, you have to teach this to hear it. You have to teach this to learn it. You know how many times I've mucked up this teaching? It's fucking incredible. It's amazing. It's the most beautiful thing to stand up in a room of people and make a mistake with this and have somebody who's just turned up for the first time point you out in the crowd and go, that's not true. And then the gratitude that you have, you know, the gratitude for being held to account. It's because I've told Jesus, I want to be held to account now. I want to be brought back into the truth of what I am. I want to be brought into alignment. I want to have the ray association that I am to be true in me, not to be something that's a little bit this one day, a little bit that the next day. It's going to be something that's uncompromisable. Right? To do that, I have to allow myself to be blown to the left and to the right like a reed in the wind. I can't be all stiff and upright. I've got to allow myself to go whichever way the dream goes, whichever way my particular journey takes, you know, and the Holy Spirit will arrange that. As above, so below. Let me not defend myself. Let me be defenseless in the face of my illusions, knowing that God goes with me. I can't be hurt by my illusions. That my sole responsibility as a miracle worker is to accept atonement for myself in the face of everything that seems to be false, in the face of everything that seems to upset me. Wars with the Ukraine, plagues from COVID, the person next door that plays their music too loud at night, the Karen at the local church who tries to organize everything. You know what I mean? If it pisses you off, there's an opportunity for gratitude. Right? You don't have to worry so much about the things that make you happy, because all of your happy thoughts come from a place where that's true in you. Okay? It's not your thoughts about it. It's just the happiness that they represent. That's what you are. You are that happiness. You are that joy. You are that light and you are that love. But the temptation to perceive yourself unfairly done by and all of these other things, that's just as real for me as anything else. But it's just a quick realignment. You know, the correction happens like that. It's so beautiful and so powerful. It's like, whoa, there by the grace of God go I. There's another opportunity for me to include in something about myself that previously I didn't want to include into my wholeness as being one with me, right? Now I'm willing to accept that it's one with me and to allow for that to be released to the truth so that I can be shown what that is in me and thus extend it. The Holy Spirit does nothing without your say-so, right? But having those lessons show up again and again and again, you know, like a lesson repeats until it's learned. I would really labor under the thought that you were going to spend the rest of your life trying not to be that person. Include it all in. Be the whole glorious, beautiful mess that you were born to be in this world, and let that be true. You know, lumps and bumps and everything. It doesn't matter. Trying to keep part of you at bay, trying to keep part of your, even in the falsity, even in the illusion of yourself, right? It's like, as above, so below, I'm one with all things. When you're one with all things here, when you've stopped resisting being the Karen, or stop resisting the idea that you're jealous or that you're greedy or needy or any of those sorts of things, let that all go, and you can just walk the world like, yep, that's me. Yep, I'm one with all of that. And it's actually true for you, right? Then your state of mind is one of a singular state. Okay. Every opportunity is an opportunity for peace in you. And eventually that begins to work by itself. And you just find that you're walking around, you no longer see Karens. You no longer see jealous people, because you've already gone through that healing of it in your mind. You can still see the same person, and you'll just see the beautiful, radiant being that they are, right? It's like, I see no enemies in a world that I've forgiven. Just my brothers in Christ. And in that, there's this singular vibration of self about you in this world that walks as a passerby, as an observer, as being in the world but not of it. And that singular vibration that you come into in this world then like connects with the singular vibration of the universe, because everything is just God. And there's this kind of lock, and there's your enlightenment. Okay, but you can't put a square peg in a round hole, or I'm not doing a good job of that, but you can't put a square peg in a round hole. You've got to allow yourself to be transformed. You've got to allow yourself to be transfigured and transcend all those ideas of what you think you are, good or bad, Karen or not Karen. You know, including it all in, taking back all those judgments and owning it, not as something that needs to be felt guilty about because you're a child of God, you're never guilty, but as something that you can actually now go, aha, I see here's an opportunity. Here is healing waiting to happen. Help me with this, Holy Spirit. Okay. So anyway, let's do our light session. Anthea, why can't we see you? We've only got this picture, and there's a few people here.
I think she has her hand up
Judy.
for a question, maybe.
Oh, go for it, Anthea.
I just wonder if you can clarify. I'll give you an example. If I look at my partner and think you unreliable bastard, does that mean I'm the unreliable bastard? And what do I do with that? Do I just let myself be healed, or do I try to be more reliable? You know, what do you do with that?
What do you want to do with that?
Well, I mean, I see myself, my ego sees me as very reliable, but I see my partner as very unreliable. And I judge him, and I don't like that about him.
Right. All right. So this is one of the greatest things in transformation, right? Is those partners that are closest to you, those that know you the best, and they're always the ones that we have the greatest emotional load with. Does that make sense? Right, we put our trust in them, our trust is destroyed, and we give them another chance, all these sorts of things. And we develop a storyline with our partner. If it's just somebody at the shop or whatever, then we can just fob it off. But when you've bought a house, you've made this kind of commitment, whatever that is, and you're in this thing, it's more difficult to just run away. And so you find yourself in your spiritual determination going, well, what do I do with it now? I've embarked upon this spiritual journey, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Because as you transform yourself, as you become more aware of your thinking, you realize just how much you judge the other person. Okay. You realize how much it is that you're projecting onto that person that you're saying you love, or maybe you're saying you love them unconditionally, but actually becoming more shitty at yourself, actually, because of the judgments you project onto them. Look what you're making me do. Look at you making me project onto you all my crap that I don't want to take responsibility for and blaming you for it. You know, this is what we do as human beings. We blame each other for things that are actually our own thoughts about ourselves. So I like to look at everyone. If you've ever read the book, and this is in the course as well, but I like it better from Khalil Gibran, the Prophet, where it's almost for children, not quite, but almost for children, where he says, others are your mirror. Other people are your mirror. They're showing you something about yourself that you don't want to look at, right? If you see unreliable in your partner and you think you're reliable, there's the yin and the yang, okay? But you're doing the same thing as Tina. You're trying to maintain the yin for yourself and project the yang out onto someone else because you don't like being unreliable, okay? So you're going to project it out. I don't want to be unreliable because that's not a good attribute for a person to have, is to be unreliable. Nobody likes an unreliable person, right? So you project it out there onto someone else, and your poor old partner who has no clue what the hell's going on just keeps copying the brunt of it and playing that part for you until you decide to take on board that you're both reliable and unreliable, okay? Within the dream, within the framework of the dream, even though neither of those perspectives reflects the truth of you, right? In accepting atonement for yourself, you're bringing the cause and effect relationship that you have with your partner together in one place and putting your finger on your nose and accepting the whole of it. Okay? I'm totally responsible for this relationship, not partly on me and partly on the other person. I'm totally responsible because it's only my own thoughts telling me what's going on. Okay? And if my own thoughts are the cause of my problems, which they are, in case you haven't realized, if my own thoughts are the cause of my problems, then it's in my thoughts that the solution must be, not my thoughts about it, but in my mind. Okay? The idea that we read in that book, the 20-minute book, I can escape the world by giving up attack thoughts, right? That's literally that lesson, right? I can escape the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. Right? Anything that disturbs your peace of mind is an attack thought. It's not going on out there in that person. It's going on in your mind because you have expectations of what you think things ought to look like, and you project it out into the world, onto people's situations and event, and suffer by the lack of the fulfillment of the expectation as you want it to be. Okay? In this world, you need to learn to accept that nothing is perfect. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, but it's perfect in its imperfection. Okay? This is a world, if you're looking through the body's eyes, this is a world that is always going to represent the opposite of truth. It doesn't matter how many partners you have. That lesson is going to present itself to you again and again and again through different people, events, whatever, until you're willing to take it on board that you are not separate from it. Right? Life is not this thing where I'm a body and I have hands and feet and I can do stuff. Life is way bigger. It's way out of the ballpark. It's like beyond human imagination. Right? If you can see life as information, if you can see life as code, or what would you call it? It's a living classroom. Okay? So my life is literally a living classroom. There's no one, not one person that comes into my awareness, that comes into my life that isn't bringing me a lesson. Right? There's no such thing as an enlightened person on the planet who has no more lessons to learn. Well, you wouldn't need to be here. You'd be done, right? God would be indeed cruel if he left you here with, no lessons to learn. Luckily, God knows not of cruelty or any other thing like that, but just in a way of being able to talk about it. But your partner is you. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes.
How does that make you feel?
I feel like, woohoo, yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Right, good. I'd be just as happy if you said, "Oh, I feel like shit now."
No, I want, relief from this stuff.
Right. So take responsibility for it. Right. I'm judging it. I'm judging my partner and getting the results of judging. That's as simple as I can make it. All right. If you don't want to continue to get those results, don't judge. But it's going to take a miracle for that to occur, right? Literally, the medium of miracles is prayer, right? Get on your knees, wear out the carpet, ask for a miracle. Don't tell Jesus what kind of miracle you want. He already knows before you ask, all right? Just ask for a miracle. In the situation with my partner, I need help. I need a miracle. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what the outcome's going to be. I don't care what anything. I just want peace instead of this. And then get out of the way. Right? Don't interfere. The next time that situation comes around where you would have previously seen that my partner or whatever is unreliable, if you're still getting the same reflection, it means that you weren't sincere in your prayer. Okay? A lot of the time, prayer is just lip service. We just say these things. And sometimes, especially when you're doing a spiritual course, when you're embarking upon a curriculum like this, we recognize our foibles. We recognize those things that we need to work on or that we need to confront and heal within ourselves. But we do so because we're prompted by our book or our teacher or our whatever. We don't do so because all of a sudden in our heart, the pain of putting up with the bullshit of it is just too much, right? So sometimes our prayer is, and same for me, right? So lip service. I keep praying, Jesus, and nothing is happening. Lip service, nothing's happening. My prayers are, you're not hearing my prayers, and maybe I've been bad and you're not listening. Who knows? But eventually you get to the point where it goes beyond just asking for stuff, right? And you mean it, and you'll get up from your prayer and you'll be like, wow, that was good. I actually felt that, right? I've gotten up from my prayers, sometimes I'll kneel down beside my bed, like when you're a child and you do these ones and that. Sometimes I've gotten up from prayer, and this is in going back a while, but nowadays my prayer is really just living gratitude. But I've gotten up from my prayer sometimes and I'm completely aware how full of shit I am, right? You can feel it. It's like that prayer had no substance, had no body. It didn't come from the heart. It was just this words that, it's not about the words. Like the prayer of the heart has to be something that you feel and connect with, which is like when I said to you about reading this little book, you've got to feel it and connect with it, right? We become so dissociated with our actual experience of life, even in this framework, even in this dimension, this reference, that we don't even experience it really, not truly. We just walk around sort of in neutral mode or in whatever. It's the same with everything. The ego taints everything. So sometimes, and this is, I can't even remember what it was in relation to now, but many years ago I had an experience. Oh, I had an experience of unwanted affection from somebody, and or unsolicited affection, I should put it that way. And I called it unsolicited affection, but obviously not. I'd obviously put out the vibrations there, and I was getting the results of it somewhere. But it used to just piss me off. Like it was the weirdest situation to be pursued and to be stalked and to be all of this sort of thing. And I couldn't work out why it wouldn't stop and all of these things. And I ended up, all my prayers had failed, and I went down to the beach one night and I drew a circle in the sand, a big circle in the sand, and I knelt in the center of the circle. And I stayed there until my knees hurt, until my hips hurt, until my back was sore. And I felt that I actually had even some kind of little glimpse of integrity for the reason that I wanted to be there to pray. Does that make sense? Because I knew that God doesn't fail me, I fail me, right? It's not God being dishonest in his promise to me. It's me being dishonest in telling myself that I want healing, when actually, in a matter of fact, Jesus is telling me in the Course, I don't actually want healing. All I want is a better life in the dream. You know, if I actually have a proper healing, like a true healing, then the dream ceases to exist in its entirety. And that's not what I want. The ego only wants a better life in the dream. And the most beautiful or aspiring life that it can have is like the spiritual one, where aren't we all beautiful and wonderful beings together and all of that. Beyond that, it cannot go, because that's still not truth, right? Being lovely spiritual beings all together in this community and this whole thing, that's nice, but that's still not it. You have to go beyond all of that, right? The experience of self transcends all things of time and space, and the ego doesn't know about that, so it tries to cap you off at that sort of spiritual level where we seek but do not find. Okay? And this is about finding. This is about not so much even really finding, but accepting that we already have been given. All right? It's not that I need to find anything. I just need to accept what is. Right? Firstly, by accepting the world exactly as it is, which is going to bring up a lot of stuff, because we've got a lot of things about the world we don't like, you know. And secondly, by through the recognition that I don't know what the truth is. I don't know what love is. Not really. I have love on my own terms, and I have love as I think it ought to look like. And then when it doesn't look like that, I get upset. But that's not really love. Love is unconditional. Try to get a sense of what unconditional means. It means that no matter what, my love is not shaken. Not shaken by appearances or situations or circumstances, events, nothing. I'm just that. So, but it's good that you recognize that, Anthea. It's good that you can see in your partner that reflection, because it is a reflection. Everything in the world is a reflection of your own thoughts about yourself. Right? So on the one hand, you've seen about yourself that you're reliable, and on the other hand, you've seen unreliability. Just bring them together. You're all of it. You're all of it. I'm reliable and unreliable, and I'm going to hand that whole thing over to God. Here, Holy Spirit, I'll give you my reliability ideas. I'll give you my unreliability ideas. It's the same thing. I'm willing to accept a miracle in place of all of this. Okay? And however that is for you, not my words. I mean, just it's got to come from your heart. And I always talk to God like God's my dad. I don't have a format or a way that I, you know, it's just like, Dad, I need to talk to you. We got to have a chat. We've got some shit going on, and you know, it's like it's more honest like that. So, is that okay?
Really good. Thank you.
Good. And I hope it brings up pain. Really, like in a blessed way. Well, that means you're being honest. You know, it means you're being honest. It's like all that projection out there. We project our pain, our suffering out. It's like, I want to feel that. I'm going to allow that to come up in me, which is what the healing is when we do our light session. It's like often there'll be this intense feeling of anxiety, you know, and especially if you're new at it, you know, there'll be this intense feeling of anxiety or dread. And when we used to do light sessions at the healing center, we'd have guys come along, you know, and they'd be like legging it out of the room. As soon as the light session would start, the energy would just be so intense. You would feel like you were being sucked out of your body, or I don't know how to describe it, but there was like Jesus talks about it in the Course as a tiny moment of terror. Okay. So that confrontation with that tiny moment of terror in your own mind, it's like, that's what every confrontation is. There's only that idea of separation. There's only that one idea of, I'm separate from God in this situation. I think I'm separate from God in that situation. Right? It's got to bring that up. Okay. But it's like in the moment that you become willing to confront that tiny moment of terror, you'll realize there's actually nothing there. It's actually already healed. It's already been accounted for in the atonement of Christ in the resurrection, which you're actually living in now. But you have a memory of it in your mind as the first idea of change, as the first experience of separation, which was totally terrifying. Right? God gave you free will, and with it, you didn't follow the instructions on the chemistry set and blew yourself into a whole nother continuum separate from God, so you think, and that was terrifying. You didn't know what you were doing. You're an innocent child, right? And God's saying to you, well, we have to go back to that chemistry set, and you're going, oh, no way, because I know what happened last time. Right? It's that tiny moment of terror, that idea of separation, and you'll feel it when you have group conversations with people, like at a restaurant, and then all of a sudden there's a pregnant pause, and there's that little upwelling of anxiety, and somebody better say something. Shit, this pregnant pause is getting so long, and before long, what are we going to do? You know, it's funny. It's just funny stuff. And then, oh, isn't it lovely weather we're having? Someone will adjust, right? There's an adjustment to that moment of total devastation, of anxiety, of realizing how actually incompetent we are as human things to have a meaningful relationship and meaningful conversation. We fill up our lives with the mundane and the trivial, and that passes as conversation because everybody does it, so it must be okay, right? Where in actual fact, there's nothing wrong with saying nothing. There's nothing wrong with that moment, and with the understanding and the recognition that we can actually join in that moment of silence, that we can join in that moment of no conversation, of that pregnant pause, let's say. That's where communication occurs, true communication, where we join in mind, right? Which is what we do in our light session. Okay. So if you guys are ready,